Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome West Point graduate and Iraq War veteran Dylan Tett to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama.
All right, sit down, you guys. It's great to see you. Madam First Lady, welcome to New Orleans. We have a number of elected officials who are with us today. Councilmember Jared Rosette, Councilmember James Gray, Senator Karen Carter-Peterson, Councilmember Nadine Ramsey. We have Mayor Helene Snyder and Mayor Johnny Dupre. And to other elected officials that are with us, if I omitted you, please forgive me, but it's great to see you guys. If y'all could give them a round of applause, I'd appreciate it. To the First Lady of the United States, to Darrell Tett, who is with us, that will give the formal introduction of the First Lady, and all of you who are gathered here today, and to the love of my life, and the First Lady of the City of New Orleans, Cheryl Landrieu. You know, I got to think a little bit about this, but President Obama's a pretty smart guy. He and Michelle met right after law school. Cheryl and I met in law school. They both had legal careers. We both had legal careers. They had kids. Cheryl's a full-time working mother, 5 children, the clerk of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal. And I got to thinking about both the President and I married up. I don't even have any questions about it. They're very, very smart. Madam First Lady, and to the ladies and gentlemen that are with us today, I'm reminded on this of many, many, many days that tragedy from time to time will course across the world and course across the nation. Yesterday we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Oklahoma bombing. President Obama asked President Clinton to represent the United States in that regard, and he recalled that terrible tragedy. Today, they're running the Boston Marathon, which reminds us of how fragile freedom can be. Today we're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the BP oil spill, and of course, not too far from now, we will celebrate the 10th anniversary of Katrina. And it reminds us that sometimes bad things and darkness will visit us. But today is an example and a symbol of how goodness and light will always overcome darkness. And then when we come together as one people, as one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, the way we say it here is one team, one fight, one voice, one city, we can collectively be a force for good. There's a lot of dysfunction in Washington, D.C. right now. Congress can't seem to get out of its own way. I think that they should work together. They could pass the trade bill. They could pass the human trafficking bill. They could, without a whole lot of work, confirm Loretta Lynch today, who is a great candidate for our Attorney General, and find a way to start making things happen. They could do that if we were one team, one fight, one voice, one city. And so finding a way to act in concert for the common good is very, very important for us as a nation. And that is what we have come together to celebrate today. I think one thing that we can all agree on as American citizens is that we never leave a soldier on the battlefield. And we certainly never leave a soldier on the streets of America. That is something that I think and transcends politics, race, and geography. And we as a nation are committed to that proposition. The First Lady called us together as a nation on behalf of President Obama some time ago and said, as a mission, we ought to, at least as a nation, be focused on one common goal, and this is one that we can get done. It's one that's in our reach. It's one that we have the resources to do. And so she challenged all of us across America to come together and try to find a way so that government, as a partner with the private sector, the not-for-profit sector, the faith-based community, a government that can break down the silos between all of the different agencies, vertically and horizontally, could find a way to do the thing that everybody in America said was important to them. Not an easy thing to do. There are too many men and women who have served us and made the ultimate sacrifice that have not gotten paid back from the United States of America. We haven't honored our commitment to them. And this is about that, because freedom is not free. It's not free at home. It's not free abroad. It takes sacrifice and it takes commitment, and we have to honor those commitments. And so when the First Lady made that clarion call across the country, I and a number of other mayors basically said, okay, we're in. We want to make it happen. I came back home after hearing the First Lady and the Second Lady, Jill Biden, basically admonish us to kind of put our money where our mouth is, to show our commitment and our effort where our loyalties were, and to see if we can make this happen. And I had a good feeling that the people of New Orleans, this team that got up after Katrina, this team that lost everything, this team that found a way, come hell or high water, and First Lady, we have had both, stood itself back up because of the partnerships, could actually make this happen. And I am pleased to be a part of a team that has made great progress on this effort. But First Lady, the only way this happened were the men and women in this room, the men and women that represented the federal government, whether it was the HUD, whether it was the VA, all of the other agencies in federal government that had anything to do with this effort, were willing to come together and break down the walls and see where common ground was, and to make the people of America know that the government on the federal level can work. And then they pushed it down to their regional administrators, and then they pushed it down to the ground. Simultaneously, the leaders in the state did the same thing. And of course, the folks in the mayor's office got a little bit of admonition and say, we're going to help make this happen. So we brought everybody together. But we realized that we could not do it by ourselves. We realized that this could not just be done with the government. We had to do it with the not-for-profit sector. We had to do it with the consortium of not-for-profits that had spent their time really pushing us to make this happen. We had to do it with the private sector. We had to do it with the faith-based community. Everybody came together. We had to know what we were talking about. And so these men and women and active military walked the streets of New Orleans night and day so that we could do a point-in-time survey to find out exactly who was out there, to ask them what they needed, to ask them why we weren't being responsive to them, and we listened to them. And then we came back and we redesigned the mousetrap. Then we went back out again and asked them, is it working? We found out that it wasn't perfect, so we went back and did it again. And we kept doing it, and we kept counting. I believe our first point-in-time survey was 196 veterans that needed care. And we really had to work through that. And then we had to have a central place for them to go, so we created it together. And then when we actually went out and we gave ourselves time, we gave ourselves accountability, we gave ourselves measurements. I think you said, hey, I want y'all done by the end of 2015. No, we said, we're going to do it 6 months earlier. We're going to actually make it happen. And we created a thermometer. We basically gauged everything that we did every day. And we found a way, not only to house 196, but at the end of the day, when that time frame, when that clock went off, it turns out that we had 226 veterans. That these ladies and gentlemen found a way. Functionally ending homelessness for veterans in the city of New Orleans. Functionally, because all of us know the hard truth that this job is never going to end. Tomorrow, there's another veteran that will find themselves in a difficult circumstance that's going to need housing, but the system should be designed so that when you find that new veteran within a reasonably short period of time, there is a pathway to housing security. There's a pathway to housing first. In fact, we won't be surprised to know that after we finished with the 226, when we did it again, 45 other individuals manifest themselves, and this team went to work working on that. It is a hard truth that homelessness in America for all American citizens, and particularly veterans, continues to be a challenge for this nation. From 2012 to 2014, homelessness has been down 66% in New Orleans. But that means there's a very, very long way to go. Yes, we have functionally ended housing homelessness for veterans in New Orleans, but there are more veterans that will show up every day who continue to make the sacrifice for us. But what is clear about what we have done here is that if it is a moral imperative for the nation, if it is something that Americans are committed to across lines, if it is something that we're willing to put the resources behind, we certainly have the will and we certainly have the way to get it done. New Orleans has been proof positive that when we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, when that's not just an aspiration, when that is actually a reality, because we made it so. As President Obama likes to say, the arc of history does not bend by itself. Somebody's got to do the bending. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you did it. You did a spectacular job. I thank you for all of the work that you've done, and I congratulate you. And now I want to introduce to you a young man who is an Iraq veteran. He is a graduate of West Point. He is also an individual that is just known as a local guy that runs a not-for-profit that has been focused on this issue for a very, very long time, who will offer us the formal introduction of a woman that I have come to admire and respect more than you could ever know. She has been a great First Lady. Dylan Tett is going to introduce her for us today. Please help me welcome this Iraq veteran, Dylan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is an honor to be here. Good morning, my name is Dylan Tett. I'm the Executive Director of Bastion Community of Resilience, a supportive housing alternative for returning warriors and families with lifelong rehabilitative needs. First Lady, on behalf of my comrades, their spouses, and caregivers, we welcome you back to New Orleans. Thank you for your constant support of our military families. It means the world to us that you chose New Orleans to mark the 4th anniversary of joining forces, and of course to rejoice with us in the effective end of veteran homelessness in New Orleans. Our mayor is very fond of referring to New Orleans as a living laboratory for innovation. In the mayor's challenge to end veteran homelessness, the mayor and his team had to bridge silos in housing, healthcare, and social services. Many community partners came together to bridge those silos, and many veterans and service members hit the streets to reach out, veteran to veteran. The VA doubled its effort as well, and I'm very proud of our local VA, both as a veterans advocate and a patient. We know the work is not over. There are still many veterans and families who are struggling with injuries like traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress, who may not be homeless right now, but need community, need supportive housing to thrive. Can we leverage the same type of federal, state, and local resources to make room for them in a supportive housing environment? We have a template here in New Orleans, and more to my next point, we have the type of compassionate leadership required to continue the work, and that of course includes the woman I have the distinct privilege to welcome to the podium right now, a woman who routinely says, let's figure this out, let's pay attention, let's do this better. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama.
Working hard. You deserve a seat. Of course, I want to start by thanking Dylan for his service, for his sacrifice, for his wonderful introduction. I am so proud of him. I'm proud of his family. And I know he's got a lot of good work to do ahead. I also want to thank my dear friend, Mayor Landrieu, and Cheryl, my girl. For all the great work. I'm so proud of this city. I'm so proud of the work that you've done. I'm proud to call you both friends. And I'm honored to be here to be able to lift up the great work that you all are doing. I also want to recognize our Executive Director at the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, Matthew Doherty, who is here. As well as all of the mayors and local leaders from across the country who've joined us here today and are working hard to achieve this goal in their communities as well. And finally, I want to pass along some warm wishes from my friend and partner in joining forces, Jill Biden. Jill is feeling a little bit under the weather and couldn't make it today, but she wanted me to be here to say thank you. Thank you to you all for everything that you're doing to give back to those who've done so much for this country. She's been a phenomenal partner. She is my girl. I know that if she could be here, she would. That message of thanks is a message that Jill and I are delivering all month long as we celebrate the 4th anniversary of joining forces. And over the past 4 years, because of folks like all of you, we have come so far on so many issues. Issues like employment, education, healthcare, particularly mental health. Businesses have hired or trained hundreds of thousands of veterans and military spouses. Teaching colleges are training teachers to support the unique needs of military-connected students in their classrooms. Associations of doctors and nurses, medical schools, and others are training healthcare providers to better treat issues like post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injuries. And over the past year, we have been ramping up our efforts on another issue, an issue that cuts straight to the core of what it means to support those who serve our country, and that is the issue of veteran homelessness. Now, like many of you, I met a number of veterans who have experienced homelessness in recent years. And I have to tell you that their stories break my heart. There's a woman from Pennsylvania whose first day of basic training was on 9/11. 3 weeks into her first deployment, one of her best friends was killed. A little while later, her base was attacked. So when she came home, she couldn't shake those images. The carnage, the explosions, the gunshots. So she started self-medicating with drugs. Her life spiraled out of control. She ended up living out of her car. Then there's the veteran in Minnesota who served during the Vietnam War. The first thing he did when he arrived back to the U.S. was to get down on his hands and knees and kiss the ground. That's how much he appreciated being back in the country he loved. But then he struggled to transition back to civilian life. Started drinking, got a divorce, and was separated from his baby daughter. And for almost 30 years, 3 decades, he was homeless, living on the streets with folks throwing change at his feet. Now, these stories are tragic, and believe me, they are infuriating. But unfortunately, they are not unusual, and they are not new. As the decades have gone by, as we've cycled through administrations of both parties, generations of veterans have fallen through the cracks. And as a country, we've seemed to resign ourselves to a reluctant acceptance of this reality. We feel badly about it. We know it is not right. But we've almost come to believe that this problem is just too big, too entrenched to ever solve. Now, I want to be very clear that the vast majority of veterans who return home, they come home in good health and good spirits. They go on to build strong families and find good jobs. And they keep serving this nation in their communities, in their workplaces, in their congregations. I've seen it. But even one homeless veteran is an outrage. And when we have tens of thousands of veterans who don't have somewhere to go when it rains, that is a stain on our nation. And I think that we can all agree that when our veterans risk their lives for this country and come home kissing the ground, none of them should ever have to sleep on it. And so that's why, as president, my husband has vowed not to simply manage this problem, but to end it. That's why he's made this issue a government-wide priority. He's cut through red tape for our veterans. He's directed record funding and resources to get them into housing. And overall, since 2010, we've housed nearly 230,000 veterans and their families. We've done this through our targeted housing vouchers and the VA homelessness programs. This is historic progress. And we know that none of it would be possible without leaders like all of you here in New Orleans. And all across the country, people are working on this issue. Just take the example of what's happened through the Mayor's Challenge to End Veteran Homelessness. This is a group of leaders who came together, as the mayor said, to last June to commit to end homelessness in their communities and to do it by the end of 2015. We started with 85 state and local leaders from all across the country, and today that number has grown to 570 mayors, governors, and local officials. So in less than a year, it's grown more than 6 times larger. See, that's the beauty of joining forces. You ask people to do something, they do it. And we are seeing incredible progress all across this country. Los Angeles housed more than 5,000 veterans last year alone. New York has cut the number of homeless veterans by more than half. Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Houston are close to ending this problem in their communities. They're close. All of this is happening because leaders across this country are getting creative. Mayor Ed Murray of Seattle and Mayor Rusty Bailey of Riverside, California have supplemented federal funds with their own city funds to provide rental subsidies and rapid rehousing services. Connecticut Governor Dan Malloy invested nearly $3 million for homeless veterans, plus even more for veterans' security deposits. Well, and then you all know the story that's going on right here in New Orleans. Mayor Landrieu decided to make this issue a citywide priority, and as he discussed earlier, he brought together government, nonprofits, landlords, so many others, including many of you here today. And I want to pay particular attention to how you all recruited active duty troops and local veterans, including some from your terrific VFW who are here with us today, to reach out to homeless vets and provide that sense of camaraderie and trust. And with the whole city behind this effort, in January, you knocked that goal right out of the park and became the first major city in the country to end homelessness. So proud because this isn't just an extraordinary achievement for the city. This is a call to action to our entire country. You all have proven that even a city as big as New Orleans, veterans homelessness is not a reality that we have to accept. It is not an impossible problem that's too big to solve. Just the opposite. You've shown us that when leaders make this problem a priority, and bring the right folks to the table, we can find a solution. And now we want cities across the country to follow your lead and solve this problem in their communities. And today, I'm thrilled to announce 3 new initiatives to help make that possible. Secretary Castro at the Department of Housing and Urban Development is making the next batch of veteran housing vouchers available starting today, which is so there are a group here who understands how important that is. So we're making a total of about $64 million available right now because we want to do everything we can to help cities across the country reach this goal by the end of the year. Second, last week I kicked off the first of our new monthly technical assistance calls for mayors and your staffs. These calls are being led by HUD, the VA, and the Interagency Council on Homelessness. And these calls are designed to give you all a chance to ask questions, to share best practices, and to get connected to the resources that you need. And again, these calls will be every month. Third and finally, I couldn't be more excited about this commitment because in the coming weeks, Blackstone, which is one of the world's largest private equity firms, and its portfolio of companies includes Hilton, Motel 6, La Quinta Inns and Suites. They are going to be working with local leaders in 25 cities across the country to help create welcome home kits for our veterans when they transition into new housing. These kits will include items like furniture, appliances, and other supplies. And just think about how important these things can be for a veteran. Now, getting the key to an apartment, well, that's a huge step. But it's a whole other thing to walk in and have dishes in the cupboard, towels in the bathroom, a bed to sleep on. So this is a wonderful commitment, and I want to just take a moment to tell you how it happened. Because this is a perfect example of what joining forces is all about. 2 years ago, I went to the Business Roundtable and spoke to dozens of CEOs of our nation's largest companies about joining forces. And Steve Schwartzman was there, and he's the CEO of the Blackstone Group. Now, Steve walked out of that meeting with one question in his mind: what can I do to help? That's all he was thinking about. So he started with an enormous employment commitment. He decided that Blackstone would hire 50,000 veterans within its family of companies. But Steve and his team wanted to do more. And when they heard about the homelessness efforts, they realized that Blackstone and these hotel chains were perfectly positioned to contribute these welcome home kits. They have properties in almost all of our major cities. Their hotels have huge inventories of furniture and appliances, so it just made sense to provide these kinds of essentials to our vets. So they're doing what they do best. And they're doing it on behalf of our extraordinary troops, veterans, and their families. And today I want to challenge folks all across the country to follow their lead as well. So I'm asking the mayors out there, can you squeeze a few more dollars from your budgets for local homelessness programs? Can you work with your local VA to fill any gaps in your own efforts? Can you ask property owners and landlords to rent to these veterans looking for a place to call home? To the business owners out there, does your company have supplies you could donate to our veterans? Could you help pay for their security deposits, their utility bills? And to folks in communities all across the country, can you volunteer to walk the streets like these veterans did and reach out to homeless folks and help them in your community? Because it's going to take all of us doing what we each do best to reach and to sustain this goal. And that last little point, sustaining this effort, is crucial. Because as the mayor said, ending veteran homelessness doesn't mean that we'll never see another veteran on the streets. That's an unfortunate reality. But it means that when someone does experience a housing crisis, we will be prepared to get them back into a home right away and for good. In fact, as the mayor said, right here in your city, in 3 months since you've announced that you've reached the goal, you've already housed another 42 homeless veterans. And that is not a sign that we somehow failed those veterans. It's a sign that the system that you all have set up is working. And so if we can be there to lift our veterans up and help them back on their feet, we can help prepare them to keep giving back to this country they love. Because time and again, that's what we've seen from our veterans. These are folks who are born to serve. No matter how long ago they took off that uniform, they're just looking for their next mission. And that brings me back to those 2 veterans I told you about at the beginning of my talk. The young woman who served in Afghanistan and the veteran from Vietnam who was on the streets for almost 30 years. We'll flash forward to today. Once she got back on her feet, that young woman, Jennifer Madden, became a nurse, a homeowner, and the mother of 2 beautiful children. And she spends her free time volunteering for a nonprofit that serves veterans with mental health challenges. And yes. And that man who served during Vietnam, Doran Hocker, he got connected with a nonprofit that got him into housing and helped get him back on his feet. He reunited with his daughter, and now he's working for the same nonprofit, helping other veterans get back on their feet as well. So I share their stories because I want the nation to remember that these are the kind of folks that we're helping. Folks who go on to build healthy families. Folks who become leaders in their communities and continue to serve the country they love. So that's why we need to keep pushing on this issue. That's why we got to keep on digging. We've got to pour everything we have into making sure they have a place to call home. Because as my husband has said, every veteran who served America deserves a home in America. By thanking you again. Thank you all for being such extraordinary leaders, for setting the bar high, for the work that you are doing and will continue to do, for the passion and dedication and leadership that you have shown to achieve this goal. This is no small task. That's why I decided to show up and hang out. It is no small task what you have done. And I know that we will continue to work together on this road in the years and years and years ahead. So congratulations, Mayor. God bless you all. Thank you.